In this section, we'll mostly be using Meshmixer. This program is a very powerful program that has many options, but because of this, it can be a little complex. If you're trying something different than what I'm doing in the video, make sure to check out the website 123dapps.com and find the tutorials and videos that'll help you out there with Meshmixer. In this section, we'll be using Meshmixer to align our crown to the ground plane. We'll then cut off a little bit at the bottom of our crown, so that way we have some flat starting points for our printer to start printing at. And then we'll be using Meshmixer's overhang analysis tools to help create supports that will allow our crown to be printed. Let's see how that's done then. Now, Meshmixer's default navigation controls are different from 123D. However, we can change that by going up to View Navigation Mode and then selecting 123D. This will make it so when we right click, it'll rotate our camera, middle mouse button will zoom in and out, and if you hold it, it'll pan the camera, just like we've been using for 123D design. Okay, our first step is to rotate our crown so it's on top of the ground plane. We're going to use the Transform tool under Edit. Once again, this tool will look similar to that in 123D design. We will rotate it and then bring it up so it just about touches. And then we're going to want to make sure that it's in the ground plane a little bit. This is so when we're printing, the printer actually starts printing on something flat. So for instance, it would be very hard to print one of these daggers with the pointy bottom, because eventually the dagger would fall over. I'm going to accept the transform by clicking on accept. And now the next step is to cut off this stuff that's protruding past the ground plane. To do this, we'll use the plane cut tool, also under edit. We'll maneuver this plane, much like we did with our transform tool, to the ground level. Notice that this will cut off everything below a certain point. Make sure to get your camera just right so you can see this. Once more, we basically want to make this plane now in the ground plane, so it cuts off everything below the ground plane. That looks pretty excellent, so I'll go ahead and accept the cut. Even with these flattened bottoms, most 3D printers still wouldn't be able to print this model because it's a particularly tricky print. However, using Meshmixer, we can create supports automatically. We'll go to Analysis, and then click on the Overhang tool. And notice now all these red areas are places that the program thinks need supports, because they would just essentially be trying to print in midair. I'm going to reset all my settings, and then I'll click on Support All Overhangs. This will automatically create some supports for us. Now that Meshmixer has gone ahead and automatically created most of the supports that our model needs, we can add some supports of our own to places that the program didn't add them to. For example, these daggers are still just resting on the small flat spot on the pommel we created. Once the handle is printed, that would be half of the weight of the dagger on one small spot. Chances are, this piece would just tip over while being printed. We can thus add a couple of supports to the bottom of the pommel to help hold the dagger upright while printing. To do this, we simply maneuver the camera into position. I like looking directly at the bottom, and then we can just click on the model where we want to support. Because we have the overhang tool active, it'll automatically add an additional support where we click. I'll add a couple to the bottom of each dagger. Mind you, these supports will eventually be removed from the crown once it's finished being printed. They come off just with a pair of pliers and a pair of scissors. Another place we might need more supports might be at the top of an existing support. For example, see these long little supports? Eventually they might bend under their own weight, or especially once it starts branching off into many other small supports. We can add another support right here just by clicking, and there we go. This will help prevent it from wobbling around and bending when printing. I'll just go ahead and do this for all similar supports. If for some reason you ever need to remove a support you just added, you can hold Control and then click on the support, and Meshmixer will automatically delete that support from the model. You can also manually tell Meshmixer how to create a support by clicking and dragging. If you click on one spot and then drag to another, it'll automatically create a support between those two spots. Once you feel that your prop has enough supports to help it print, we can click the Done button to finish adding our supports. And then you'll want to go to File, Export to export this model as an object file. This file type can also be imported into just about any 3D printing program. I have imported and positioned the prop into the program I'll be using for 3D printing. This is Makerware, MakerBot's own printing program. You'll notice that the build plate of my printer was not deep enough to fit the whole crown. I had to chop the crown in half using the plane cut tool in Meshmixer, and then I saved each half. By doing so, I can now fit the two halves onto one build plate. You might not have to do this if your build plate is large enough to fit your prop. Once your prop is finished printing, all you have to do is remove the support material and then decorate your prop. Then you will have a custom, stage quality, meaningful prop.